We're back now with our live breaking news. It's happening in St. Louis. Protests there marred by violence tonight. St. Louis Police Department tweeting a total of 3 of our officers have been injured within the last hour. 2 transported, 1 refused treatment. The mayor of St. Louis, Lyda Crewson, tweeting this in response. Officers injured, on way to hospital. The violence is unacceptable. The former officer who was found not guilty in the fatal shooting of Anthony Lamar Smith is speaking out tonight as well to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I want you to listen to what Jason Stockley is saying.
I did not murder Anthony Lamar Smith. I did not plant a gun. As I testified at trial and to homicide on the day of, it was an imminent threat to my life. I had to. The taking of a life is the most significant thing that one can do, and it's not something that is done lightly, and it's not something that should ever be celebrated, and it's just a horrible experience altogether. But sometimes it's necessary. This is a completely reactionary event. If he takes off on car, we follow. He turns left, we turn left. And unfortunately, you're reacting in those few seconds, and you have to make decisions based on limited information and limited time. And they're the most important decision you ever make because it could be your last. And it's very stressful. And in the end, regardless of what happens, nobody wins. I do not remember stating that we or I are going to kill the I think, don't you know it? The first time that I heard that was when I met with the FBI. And I gave them the same answer that I'm giving you now, which was, I don't recall saying it, but I never denied it. I can tell you with absolute certainty that there was no plan to murder Anthony Smith during a high-speed vehicle pursuit. It's just not the case. And I wish that I could tell you exactly what that was and what it meant, whether it was just heat of the moment or whether it was part of a larger conversation. I just don't remember. So I thought that Anthony Smith's car at the end at West Florissant Acme had spun a complete 360 degrees, or actually more, to make it in the direction that it was. But when I watched the dash cam, I could see that it was just a 90-degree slide. Again, it's insignificant. It has nothing. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the decision making. It doesn't change how things are viewed or judged. But it just shows that my memory is not perfect, and neither is anyone else's. What I found to be most surprising, specifically from the cell phone videos that were released after my arrest, was how many officers were near the vehicle while I was searching it for the weapon. I saw everything first person. So, you know, if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at. And I didn't have that type of view from above where you could actually see who's there, what are they doing. But you can plainly see that there is no attempt to deceive from my actions. The driver's side door is open. The back windows were blown out from the crash. And people were looking in while I was in there. There was definitely no bizarre behavior in my mind at all. Almost every resisting of arrest, doesn't have to be a fatal shooting. Every resisting looks bad. They never look good. So what you have to separate are the optics from the facts. And if a person is unwilling to do that, then they've already made up their mind, and the facts just don't matter. And to those people, there's nothing that I can do to change their minds. But any reasonable person who looks at the facts of the case will realize that the optics are nothing but an illusion.
Why is it so important for you to be so open about this?
Because I didn't do anything wrong. If you're telling the truth and you've been wrongfully accused, you should be shouting it from a mountaintop. And which is why I have no problem. And besides the gag order that was put in place, I've never had a problem discussing the facts of this case with anyone that I'm allowed to discuss it with. There's no question that it's off limits in terms of what occurred that day. As far as how I feel right now, I'm obviously currently pleased that there was that the right verdict came down, and it feels like a burden is lifted, but the burden of having to kill someone never really lifts.
Former Officer Jason Stockley speaking there to St. Louis Post-Dispatch reporter Christine Byers.